In this 5-minute demonstration, I'm going to demonstrate how to build a very simple Hello World container using Docker. I'm using Windows 10 on my host machine. However, this works just as well in Server 2016. Now, before I've started this demonstration, I've done a couple of things because there's some time-consuming parts to this setup. First thing I've done is I've added the containers feature to Windows. As I say, that's an optional feature in Windows Server 2016. It's also an optional component in Windows 10 as well. I've then pulled down and installed Docker from the Docker website. If I just look down here, you'll see I've got the little icon, the little whale icon running. And when I've installed Docker from the Docker website, I've specified that I want to use Windows containers rather than Linux containers. For this demonstration, I'm going to be using Windows Server Core image with IIS. I'm demonstrating this with Microsoft's servers rather than Linux-based servers. So I've added the Docker command line interface. I've added the containers feature, and if I now fire up a command prompt on this machine, if I type Docker on its own, you can see that I have access to the Docker command line interface. The first thing I needed to do for this demonstration was to pull down an image, and to know which image I want to pull down, the easiest way to do that is to search for the image. So I'm running a Docker search command, and I've searched the Docker image repository there for all images that have been tagged with the word Microsoft. Once I've found the one I wanted, I've specified I want to pull down, in this case, Microsoft/IIS. Now the IIS image has a dependency on Windows Server Core, so at the same time I'm telling it to also pull down the Windows Server Core image. Now I've done that in advance because it's about a 6.5 GB download, and rather than you watching a 6.5 GB download, I've done that for you. So if I just type Docker images, you'll see I've already pulled down the IIS image and the Windows Server Core image. Now I could at this point run that image and I would have a perfectly fine working IIS server. However, it wouldn't be very much use to me because it wouldn't have any content for my users to see. So I've created, using Notepad, a Docker file, and this is the syntax of a Docker file. You see I've put some commented out sections just to outline what the different commands are doing. So I'm saying this is Richard's Marvellous Docker demo. I'm using the Microsoft IIS image, the image that I've pulled down here. There's my email address if anyone needs to contact me about my image. And I'm just going to simply run two commands. I'm going to copy a logo file as well as a web page that I've created into the inetpub www.root folder, so the default folder location IIS uses for web pages. I've then saved that with no file extension as the word DockerFile, and I've placed that within the C Docker directory on my machine, along with the web page and the logo file. I'm now going to use the docker build command to create an image, which I'm going to tag as Mr. Keep Server, and I'm going to base that on the contents of the C Docker directory. So when I run this command, it should run through that folder. It will find my Docker file and should construct a new container for me based on the Microsoft IIS image. So that's now created a new image for me called Mr. Keep Server. So if I type Docker images, I can see Mr. Keep Server is now listed. And if I want to run that, I'm going to type docker run. Because it's a web server, I'm going to specify a listening port and a source port for that web server, so it's going to be on port 80, and I want to run Mr. Keep Server. Once that's running, if I type docker ps, I should see the currently running image. You see that's been running for 2 seconds, and it's been given this unique name, so Happy Nobel. Now, every time I run that container, it'll give it a new instance with a new container ID and a new 2-word label. So if I want to see what's going on in that container, if I do a docker exec and do Happy Noel, and Nobel rather, and type say ipconfig, I can actually get the IP address associated with that particular container, so 172.168.42. If I then visit that IP address in my web browser, I'll use Chrome for doing this. There is my containerized IIS website. Once I'm finished with it, if I want to stop the execution of that, it's simply docker stop and the name of the container. Whoop. Damn you, caps lock. So if I now type docker ps again on its own, you'll see that container is no longer running. And if I want to remove an image that I've created from my repository, I can simply type docker rmi and I put -f to force the removal of that image. I hope this demonstration has been useful. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to get in touch.